Hello, welcome back to Lab 52, a Dynasty Football podcast. I'm one of your hosts, the Tecmo Weave, joined by my co-host, Weapon X. And as always, this is not Dynasty advice, this is Dynasty Insight. The topic for this week is wide receiver 1 to 25. So we're going to do basically wide receiver 1s and wide receiver 2s, and then one honorable mention, and these are Dynasty wide receivers we're talking about, not redraft. Um, but, and you can tell us a little bit more about the evolution of our website, Lab 52 Dynasty Football Podcast, or excuse me, dynastyfootball.com. We have some rankings on there, and we have some dynasty rankings there. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So far, we have our quarterbacks and running backs posted. The top 30 quarterbacks and the top 36 running backs, and you and I have put them in tiers. So when you go on there and check out the rankings, you'll see the tiers that Tecmo and I have them in right now. And and we'll be updating them throughout the off season. Throughout the season, they'll be updated, and you'll see a date there right above the rankings where it'll show you when it was recently updated. So you'll be able to see how up to date those are, and yeah, it's cool to see those. We'll start posting the wide receiver rankings shortly after this episode, most likely, and then the tight end rankings will be there following pretty much maybe the next day. So I'd say in the next couple of days, all positions will be up there. Yeah, it's definitely cool to see.
It is. It is. Yeah, no, there's nothing worse than going to a dynasty or a rankings website and things are all out of date. It's just out of touch and you're like, why did I bother with the finger exercise and clicked on this website. Um but you hopefully will not have to deal with that at lab52dynastyfootball.com. That is our website. Please check it out. Leave us a voicemail. There's an option in the corner. If you have a microphone connected, you can leave a voicemail, ask us a question, or request to be a special guest on the show. Um, because that's something that we've done in the past with Amaru. We're looking at having another special guest on next week. Because this is a weekly podcast. I don't know if I've mentioned that, or for newer listeners, we do our best to come out with new relevant information and topics once a week. Typically, we record on a Sunday or a Monday. In this case, we're doing it Saturday night. So always look, if you're enjoying this podcast, look for it sometime at the end of your week. It should pop up. Um, Unless something gets in the way of life, but we're doing the best we can. So, well, with that out of the way, I think we got a big chunk of dynasty info to devour right now. We got wide receiver 1 to 25. And personally, I'm looking at this as, if I was doing a redraft, or not a redraft, excuse me, if I was doing a startup, who would I take, when and where and why? Um, And that's how I'm looking at it. Did you make your list any differently than taking those things into consideration?
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I made the list the same way, based on, you know, a startup, where you're thinking you're going to get these guys, where you're going to take them, how highly valued they are in startups. But yeah, that's the best way to rank these receivers in Dynasty, startup wise, especially right now where there's still a lot of startups going on. And this will be a good exercise. The top 25 here post NFL draft. We did our wide receiver rankings before the NFL draft, and there's definitely going to be some movers in in these rankings. Some of them will be higher, some will be lower. It's going to be really interesting. I have the old rankings here right off to the side, so I can kind of take a look at which players dropped or rose in these rankings.
I think that'll be interesting. I'll foreshadow a little bit here. Unfortunately, Wandale Robinson did not make my top 25. Uh, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have good value or he couldn't be a wide receiver two this year. It's just the picture of the fantasy landscape became a little bit more clear at this time. And what players do you want to have a share of that have the arrow pointing up? Where if you want to move them for something else, tier up, tier down, that's what you're looking for. You don't want to have to make excuses for your assets. So I think I'll start with number one. Um, and maybe I'm just doing this to be a bit contrarian here. But when I thought of things and I thought, well, okay, I'm going to look at age, I'm going to look at production, I'm going to look at situation, and what wide receiver is the clear number one on his team. Not that if he was hurt, someone else could replicate. And I guess that's maybe a shot at Chase. I'm putting JSN at number one. He's 2 years younger than Jamar Chase. He is the clear wide receiver one on his team. If he's not playing, who else is going to replicate that type of production? Whereas Jamar Chase, if he doesn't play, T. Higgins steps in and can be the number one target on the team. If JSN isn't playing that week, Seattle has to change their game plan. So the age is really I guess to me, kind of what moved the needle. The fact that his role on the team can't be replicated by anyone else but him. And after you win the Super Bowl, at least things are looking pretty stable for a while. He's not looking at a quarterback that's going to retire. He's not looking at a quarterback that tends to get injured. Um, and he's not in an organization that maybe doesn't value their players like they do in Cincinnati. Um, so I don't know. Number one, I'm going with JSN. Do you have any thoughts on that? And don't feel that you have to. Maybe you just said, "Oh, that's a perfect pick." I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, no issue at all with anyone taking JSN as number one receiver. I mean, I don't see why anyone would have a problem with that. I personally have Chase number one at receiver, but this we're talking Chase and JSN. You're not gonna be upset getting either of these players. So obviously number two will be Jamar Chase. The body of work, the quarterback combination he has there. I mean, every year since 2021, that's when he started in the NFL. He's been a top five fantasy receiver, PPR scoring 4 or 5 years. 2023, he was number 10. Last year, it seemed to be a down year. You know, he had some ups and downs, but I mean, he was still the number three ranked receiver in PPR scoring, 19.6 points per game. That's if that's considered a down year, you know where you're getting from Chase. Weekly upside to win you a week at any moment. Can make big plays downfield and get you catches over the middle. Tons of targets. So we all know what Jamar Chase does. JSN Chase, the 2 year age difference, that may be why you would go JSN. But when we're talking about two of the best players in all of football, there's really nothing really to be upset about when you're discussing these two players.
I would agree with that. Yeah, no, and especially Chase does have the fact that he's playing on a team that maybe does not have an elite defense. Seattle had all their ducks in a row, won the Super Bowl. Um, and so what does that mean when you got a quarterback that likes to throw and he's confident and you got the super stud wide receiver in Jamar Chase? Maybe the ceiling is a bit higher in a week to week scoring. But yeah, no, it's splitting hairs. But when we're doing this type of ranking list, we got to pick somebody. So, and as we had mentioned last week, and as we were talking earlier in the show, if we're going to do 25 players, we're going to try to keep it to around 2 minutes a player. So, while there is more to say about everybody, we're going to do our best to get through everyone and hopefully have some interesting insight provided. Number three, it just made for whatever reason I've never been too high on this player, even though his stats, I mean, he had a outstanding rookie year. He didn't have the draft capital. Talking about Puka Nakua. I still think the Stafford situation, and then they sign our draft Ty Simpson. Like, oh boy, he's getting old, and so you can't just put anyone in there. You couldn't just put in Geno Smith and then Puka Nakua is this. I mean, sure, he'd probably still be a wide receiver one, but I wouldn't imagine the stats would be the same. And Stafford has always hyper targeted his number one guy from his time in Detroit to his time in LA. So he's back this year. We can assume, you know, Tom Brady played into his 40s and Matthew Stafford is in 40. So, and money is a good motivating factor. Puka does have some kind of boneheaded off the field scandals from time to time. But once again, these are young adults. He's 24. I always find it comical when the NFL say these are grown men playing football. It's like, your brain isn't even developed until you're like 25 or 26. So, the idea that a 24-year-old in the limelight with a lot of money, um, that gets hit in the head sometimes might do something a little wacky, that shouldn't come as a surprise to a lot of people. Um, but I think at number 3 here, when you look at the players after Puka, it doesn't make sense to take anyone else. Whether you like Puka or not, his value is high enough, the production is there, the situation is good. Why would I go in a different direction?
Absolutely, absolutely. Puka Nakua. I mean, I could see people taking him number one at receiver. I wouldn't have any argument there either. I think that is the first tier. JSN, Chase, and Puka. I believe that's the first tier in dynasty rankings. Yeah, Puka, the model of consistency, though the way he just played. I mean, he is a beast out there. He is a powerful receiver. I mean, when you see him running with the ball, he is a powerful receiver. Route running's out incredible. And like you mentioned, Matthew Stafford loves to target his number one receiver, always been that way. And so, when you have Puka out there and Matthew Stafford out there playing at the same time, you're going to get a lot of targets. And he's just a great player. So, yeah, no issue with Puka there. So that's the top three. Number four, another guy who is the model of consistency at wide receiver. He is one of the safest players in all of fantasy football. Um, you can expect him to play every game. He's been out there every single. I mean, think about it. He's entered the league in 2021, and I'm talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's played essentially every game in his career. He doesn't miss games. He is super consistent. The last 3 years, he's been a top 5 ranked PPR fantasy receiver. He's out there all the time. He's getting tons of targets. Jared Goff, another guy who likes to sling it. He's going to throw it to his receivers. He's going to get it to St. Brown in traffic, in the end zone. He's a great player. He's just consistent. And again, when you're drafting a receiver this high in startups, I know he's 26 and a half years old, so obviously he's not on the younger end, but when you look at things in a 2 to 3 year window, I don't think you're worried too much about his situation. I think you got Goff there, and you know what you're getting. You don't have any issue for the next 2 to 3 years with his situation. And again, when you got a guy this consistent, the target share at what it is every week, you're going in every week with a strong wide receiver one every single week, and and he's just a heck of a player. And I don't have any issue with him being here in the top four.
No, no, I mean, I guess my only, gripe is the age. That's it.
Yeah,
It's funny when you look at his stats here, it's like, man, this guy is primed to go to the Hall of Fame. Rookie year, 90 catches, over 100 each and every season after that, over 1,000 yards. His sophomore season and beyond, um, guy gets like, right around or over 150 targets a year. Um, yeah, no, that's a really solid pick. I just don't know, at least for me, I mean, maybe it's the smart move picking Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know what you're getting. Um, but I guess that's the balancing act that you have to do in a startup. How much are you going to value the age? And just because the player's younger doesn't mean they're going to produce. Would you rather have 3 100 some catch seasons by Amon-Ra St. Brown or a player that happens to be 24 years old? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself. So no, I can understand why he's picked here. I had him a little bit lower on my list, but not much. I had him at 7. Um, just because I was favoring some of the younger players and hoping you got more years to work with their upside. But um, unfortunately, bad things can happen to good players, like our guy at number 5 here. I have Malik Neighbors. Um, such an outstanding rookie year, and they really brought in no one of note to compete with him for targets. Granted, there's some talk that maybe he won't be fully back for week 1. um, you just don't want him to be one of those players that ends up on your roster. You're always chasing that rookie year where he had 170 targets. You got a new coaching staff. Um, And, Jackson Dart, he doesn't have to throw the ball. He can run the ball until until he does learns to slide. That might not be so long of a career. But in the meantime, it'll be a lot of fun. And just when you see that upside as a rookie, 109 catches, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, 170 targets. But once again, you target almost any NFL wide receiver 170 times, they're going to have a decent fantasy output. And he turns 23 at the end of July. There's still, I mean, potentially another 10 years if he becomes a ultra elite wide receiver. Another 8 years. Um, that's a guy you want to have on your team, and people don't seem to mind Malik Neighbors and the injury. But it is funny when you hear other shows or experts, critics saying we would have punished him if he would have somehow. We punish the players that play hurt, and we don't seem to care when the players are just injured and they sit out. Um, but then again, they don't often share the full scope of how bad the injury is. So all we see is declining production. I guess it makes some sense, but Malik Neighbors, no, he tends to go early second, maybe even late first in startups that I've seen. So I like Malik Neighbors at number 5.
Yeah, love that pick there. Malik Neighbors, if he comes back strong from this injury, if he's able to start the season out there on the field and have a similar season that he had in his rookie year, we're talking about a tier 1 receiver next year in startups. There's just no question about it. That's the type of player he is. That's the type of upside he has. Looking forward to seeing how he can play in a full season. If he's able to get out there to start a full season with Dart, that would be really cool to see. Yeah, he's just one of the most exciting receivers out there, and also the skill set's just off the chains. He's a tremendous player. Number 6, I'm going to go with another younger receiver. I was between Lamb and this player, but I'm going to go with Drake London, number 6 in our rankings. He's 24. He'll be 25 during the season. He had 112 targets last year, 68 catches, 919 yards in 12 games. So obviously, when early in the season, he was playing as a top 5 receiver. Obviously, the injuries derailed overall season. He finished as the wide receiver 19 in PPR scoring, but the year before that in 2024, wide receiver 5, 100 catches, over 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. So you see the upside he has, and let's see what happens. With the quarterback situation. Obviously, it's going to be Tua or Penix. We'll see. We'll see who's going to be the starter to start the year. But I don't really think it's going to matter too much as far as his production. I think it's going to be similar for either quarterback, whoever it's going to be. And he's the clear-cut number 1 receiver, number 1 target on the team. You have Bijan Robinson on the team as well. That helps the overall offense. That helps defenses can't key in too much on receivers when you got a guy like Bijan Robinson at running back. You got to pay attention there too. So there's going to be more opportunities for him. I like the fact that they just continue to build that offense, and I think it's going to be interesting. But yeah, Drake London, he's got as much potential as any receiver that you're going to find in this tier we're in right now, the second tier.
Yeah, I like it. I had him as my number 5 on my list. So you putting him here right next at number 6, I have no issues with that. I agree that whether it's Penix or Tua, I wouldn't imagine there should be a dramatic change in target volume, as they didn't really add any other wide receivers of note. You still have Bijan to, draw some of the attention to the run game. And the injuries last year, that doesn't, if you're just scoreboard watching or stat book tracking here, it may seem like a down year, but he missed a good chunk of the season, and he is one of those players that we can see he can go off. That I remember last year, I think he had at least 1 or 2 games where he scored in bunches. Um, and so that's nice. It might be a bit overkill. I don't know if you if you had your choice, would you rather your players score in bunches, or would you like them to be more consistent week to week?
Yeah, I would like to. I think consistency obviously is the name of the game. But there's never an issue when you have some big time performance because that could win you a week at any time. But obviously, You got a guy scoring in bunches like Puka did during the fantasy playoffs. No one's complaining about that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll move on to number 7 here. This is a upside hope pick. And I'll pose this question to you before I go too much into him. All we got is one season to go off of, but he's his clear team's number one wide receiver. There's a lot of hype. Tetaroa McMillan, I have him here at number 7. He will turn 23 in April, so he's already 23. He's not that. This is his age 23 season. Just got just over 1,000 yards last year, 1,014, 7 touchdowns on 122 targets. Now imagine they targeted him 170 times like Malik Neighbors. What would the stats look like? Um, he would have probably a heck of a lot more of a kind of alarming stat line. But with no further competition, granted, it's still Bryce Young. But I mean, some folks seem to feel hopeful about Bryce Young. My question to you is, if Tedero and McMillan was in this year, 2026, if he was in the draft class for this year, where would you put him? Where would you put him? What pick would he go as? He wouldn't. He probably wouldn't go as 1-1, right? He wouldn't. He wouldn't surpass Jeremiah Love.
No, no, I don't think he'll surpass Jeremiah Love, but he'd be right there at 1-2. No question about it. He was the number 8 overall pick last year's draft. So, yeah, I would imagine if he was in this draft class, yeah, he would have got drafted with a really high pick in the NFL draft, and I would probably say 2 in rookie drafts.
Yeah, ahead of Carnell Tate.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, at least with their pedigree. But that's who I'm taking at number 7, Tedero McMillan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's in that range. I would say so. I think I had him at wide receiver 9. So yeah, he's in that range for sure. Definitely excited to see how he can do in year 2. He's got a tremendous opportunity here. They drafted Brazel, very quick, fast receiver. He's a guy that could really help open things up. Maybe Tedero McMillan will get more opportunities over the middle of the field, more possession type catches. That'll be good to see. So we'll see what happens there. So all right, we're here at number 8, correct?
8. Yep,
All
we're at
right.
number 8.
Number 8, I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb here at number 8. He's 27 years old, and we all know CeeDee Lamb, what he can do. We've talked about it before. The biggest concern, obviously, would be, will the targets be there for him as they were early in his career? You got George Pickens there. That can't be ignored. Um, what is the target share going to look like? There's enough room for both. We've seen them both produce, but we know that George Pickens, if he's healthy and he's out there, that's going to be a tough. That's going to be tough to see him getting the target share he had early in his career. But I still think he's still a strong wide receiver 1. I think here at number 8, I'm okay with him at number 8 because I think Dallas is still going to be a team that passes the ball a ton. There's going to be opportunities for him to go around. The connection between him and Dak has been strong throughout their whole careers. So CeeDee Lamb here at number 8. I feel good about it. It's about where he's been going anyway. So yeah, CeeDee Lamb at number 8. I feel pretty good about that one.
That's the exact spot I had him as well, at number 8 specifically. He wasn't just the next player on my list. So I agree with your ranking. And you're right, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out between him and Pickens. And it really may not be I mean, doesn't it have to be an issue for one of them this year? They're both not gonna have 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, we saw last year that it was an issue for one of them, and it was CeeDee Lamb who had the numbers drop last year.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean, and that's what you're alluding to as well. It's gonna probably be an issue, but we're gonna be ranking these guys based on what they've done, what they can do, and I think CeeDee Lamb still deserves to be in this range here. But you're right; it'll be very interesting to see how these targets play out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it would be a toss-up. We were talking last week how, nobody can see the future. Nobody can. You can't read the market that well to know, is it going to be Lamb? Is it going to be Pickens? Are they going to go with the youth? Are they going to pull an Amari Cooper and trade CD Lamb away? I don't know, but he's been elite, and unless you're picking in the first few picks as we go along, every player has some question mark by them, whether it's a major question mark or some sort of negative mark on their record. With Lamb, it's just maybe an uncertainty about the role or the target amount, the target share. But I think at this point, you just have to go with the value, and the age, and say, okay, this is a good situation. They're going to pass. They know how to pass in Dallas, with Prescott. So I'm okay with CeeDee Lamb at number 8. That's where I put him too. And number 9, I went went with Justin Jefferson. Went with another. Okay, these are the previous elite players of the handful of last years in Dynasty. They start to make their way down the list because all of a sudden you're not the new kid on the block anymore. And anytime you have a down season, just like JJ did last year, then it's what have you done for me lately? That's what people think about. And granted, yeah, the situation is different. They got Kyler there. Um, I don't know. I don't know if you have any insider thoughts about Kyler. I mean, I guess I've been warming up to the idea that maybe Kyler Murray might be one of the best quarterbacks that JJ's had throw to him. I mean, yeah, he had Sam Darnold. That's not like Sam Darnold is this elite quarterback. Yes, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's a competent quarterback. Kirk Cousins is a competent quarterback. Um, but, Kyler Murray is not, he was looking like a very, very promising young player for a handful of years there in the league until the wheels just kind of fell off in an organization that tends to not be a winning organization in the Arizona Cardinals. So I don't want to necessarily take all the emphasis away from his personal responsibility to develop as a player and to produce on the field, but maybe the Kyler Murray experiment in Minnesota, it's not as bad as I initially thought it was. But the value here with JJ at 27, he's a dominant player. He's been a dominant player since the moment he walked in the league. I mean, as a rookie, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns on 125 targets. That's insane. Um, so I'm going with JJ here at number 9, hoping Kyler will the stats kind of regress to the mean here. Maybe he's not going to get the 1,500 yards that he had in 2024, but another 1,200 yard season and hopefully maybe closer to 7 to 10 touchdowns is more than realistic.
Absolutely, tremendous value here for Justin Jefferson. He's been a good value all offseason in drafts. If Kyler Murray can even get close, anywhere close to where he was, at the peak of his career, it's going to be a major upgrade from what JJ was dealing with last year. There was some of the worst quarterback play that we've seen in a long time. So if he gets even average quarterback play from Kyler Murray, I mean Kyler Murray supported DeAndre Hopkins. We saw the numbers he put up there with the Arizona Cardinals. So I think there's going to be a good opportunity for Jefferson to really bounce back here, and I'm excited to see it. We know the type of player he is, perennial top 3 receiver. So I don't. The body of work for JJ has been too strong to doubt him this year, I would say. So at number 10, this is where it got a little hard for me. In our original rankings, we had Nico Collins at number 10. I'm not going to pick him here. He's actually dropped several spots. I would say he's dropped several spots since we originally did the rankings. Number 10, yeah, I'm gonna go with the teammate of CeeDee Lamb that we just talked about. I'm gonna go with George Pickens at number 10, and a lot of it's the same thing. Dallas is gonna pass the ball. George Pickens, what a season he had. He's 25 years old. You just see the types of plays he makes. The talent it's undebated. He's one of the more talented receivers in the sport. Can make any play. It's just going to come down to targets. Will they be there at the level they were last year? I think there's a good chance. I think there's a good chance. They know he's an important player to their team. They want him there, and I think George Pickens is going to continue to produce. So him at number 10, I think some people may feel uncomfortable with it, but with a team like Dallas throwing the ball as much as they do, there are certain teams that you can be feeling very, very comfortable having either of the receivers on their team.
And if I recall correctly, that when they acquired George Pickens, didn't they give up like a second round pick for him? This wasn't like he was some
Yeah.
problematic player. It was a
Yeah,
second round pick that they had to give up. So they gave up significant draft capital for a player. This isn't, like a Randy Moss to the Patriots deal where they're like, just get rid of him, just get anything you can, and then he comes in and shines. Um, no, they expected him to be a focal point of their offense.
100%. Yeah, they have a lot invested in him, and like you said, they traded good draft capital to get him. And he's going to be he is a part of their team now, and they want him to be there. And I think obviously he didn't get the long term deal, but I think that one's coming. And if he has a really strong year this year, yeah, he's going to get paid big time for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I had him at number 11, so I like the ranking at number 10. Yeah, once again, if you don't know, if you don't know between two players, then you can assume that they should probably be ranked right around the same. Um, with a handful of spots. If they're playing a similar or the same position, they're putting up equal statistics historically, or in recent times, they should be ranked right around each other. Well, at number 11, I'm going with here because yeah, you're right. This is at right around 10 is when I started to go. Oh man, who do I pick? Um, so at number 11, I'm going to go with the player I had it ranked at number 10, which is Emeka Egbuka. And maybe this is too, I don't know. I can imagine in future Dynasty episodes where we re rank the players. I imagine this was probably going to be the highest I'm ever going to have him ranked. Um, it's not like his season was off the charts. I mean, he caught less than 50% of his passes. We know he got off to a hot start last year, but with Mike Evans gone and maybe not necessarily a whole lot changed on the offense. You still got Baker Mayfield, got Chris Godwin there. The it was just so promising. He'll be 24 in October, so he's got the youth working for him. And you see him go in, round 3 of a startup. Um, I don't know who else you would take at this range where you're not gonna maybe have some questions. Puka is not gonna fall to number 10. So, when you're looking at the players that are available in this range, I'm going with the youth, I'm going with the situation, a player who produced last year, and generally the fantasy community is very positive on. If you offer a Mecha Egbuka, most of the time you're not going to get anybody selling him low to you. It's going to be a sell high, or they're going to say he's untouchable. So those are the players that you'd want to have, and that's how I would be drafting if I had this pick and he was on the board. I will take Mecha Egbuka at number 11.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be exciting to see how he bounces back. We saw what he did early in the season. You saw the potential he has. It'll be really cool to see the connection he has with Baker this year. I know they're working hard right now in the off season to get that offense going. So it'll be exciting. Yeah, Emeka Ibuka's upside is it's exciting. It's definitely exciting. All right, at number 12, correct? We're at 12, right?
That's correct.
All right, number 12, I'm gonna go with. See, this is an interesting range right here. I don't know if you felt the same, but there's a lot of players that are valued similarly, and they're going around the same range in drafts. So for me, I'm just gonna go with the youth this time. I'm gonna go with the youth, and I'm gonna go with the rookie Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, teammate of Emeka Ibuka.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Carnell Tate because, and here is why. Um, so number 12, Carnell Tate, and it's because I think when you have players very, very similarly valued in this range, all within the same age, Chris Olave is 25, Garrett Wilson 25, Rashi Rice 26, Carnell Tate 21. I think when you look at Carnell Tate, they brought him in there, extremely high pick. Cam Ward is now going to have an opportunity to improve in this next year. Coaching is going to be improved. He's going to have an opportunity to have a number 1 target now. They drafted him to be the guy. If Carnell Tate can produce at a solid level, we're not even asking him to have a massive Odell Beckham rookie year. We're not asking for anything like that. If he has a very solid rookie year, the value he has right now, it's only going to increase. And if you look at
Okay.
guys like Rashee Rice, Garrett Wilson, I don't see their value elevating above Carnell Tate if they have similar seasons. So I'm looking at it in that startup sense, and
Okay.
they're all in the same range. I want the value, and I think the value is with Carnell Tate in this pick. It's the unknown, but the value is it's gonna rise if he has a good year.
Well, you convinced me. That's a pretty good explanation. I mean, I was genuinely shocked. I had him at number 17. Just simply, okay, well, he's unproven. He wasn't this ultra dominant wide receiver in college. Now he's coming into a situation he's not, stepping in as the number one to Pat Mahomes or something. Um, for whatever reason, if KC drafted in the top handful of picks in the draft and they pick Carnell Tate. Um, but I do like thinking about it in that sense. That if because the player I had here at number 12 is it will be our player at number 13, but it's a player you just mentioned. It's Rashee Rice. Yeah, if they each had a 1,200-yard season and 7 touchdowns, whose value is going to go up more next year? That's exactly the way to think about it, and I think that's a interesting concept to keep in mind when you're drafting players. That if they have the season you think they're going to have, who's going to have more value next year? How are you going to get more of a return on an investment? Um, because it makes sense to do that when the player is older, but when they're not necessarily old, who who's going to shine more? Who's going to make more of a splash? And yeah, we've already seen Rashee Rice make the splash he's made, and that was in his rookie year. That was his best year so far. He hasn't really been able to get back and stay on the field. So, but no, I like it, but I can also make a counter argument against it too. But that's a risky way of looking at it, but I think it's interesting. So I'll give you a thumbs up for that one. It made me think about things a little bit different.
Yeah, for sure. And it may be uncomfortable, when you're seeing guys like Rasheed Rice on the board, Garrett Wilson, guys that are proven, guys that you're pretty confident what you'll get if they're healthy. So obviously it could be uncomfortable, but like I said, and like you were mentioning too, it's the value that is there. And when we're drafting in dynasty startups, when I'm drafting in a dynasty startup and I'm in the middle of deciding who to pick, and I'm torn on who to pick. Value, I go with value every single time because that is going to be what carries you through to the next year. It's good. The value will be there, and it's going to help you long term, whether it be trades, whether anything you need to do with your team. It's gonna help you long term if you go with the value and you feel like that's the player that's going to continue to excel in their career.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I guess the counter argument is only simply you don't want to blow it. You don't want to blow it in the first few rounds of your draft. You don't have to be Nostradamus and make some prediction about what's going to happen. Sometimes it's okay to just play it safe. And maybe that's a sort of an okay segue into number 13 with Rashi Rice. Maybe it's not as safe as it seems. His off the field issues have been publicized. We're all aware of those, and everybody likes the situation. We like the situation with Pat Mahomes. We like how the Andy Reid offense uses him. You got Eric Bieniemy back this year calling the plays, and we've seen the blow up weeks, especially in a PPR league. But once again, when your best year at this point, it's 3 years behind you. It was 2023. That's the last year you had even something that kind of was close to a fantasy relevant season. Um, Maybe he gets moved down the list in the coming months. I don't know. Right now, I'm okay with putting him at number 13. Because when I look at some of the other players, then we start looking at guys that are, yeah, they're a little bit older. Maybe their situation is poor, or they might even be, potentially you don't know if they're going to be the wide receiver two on their team. So maybe there's safer players to pick here, but I'm still going to hold on one more year to hope that all the stars align. He stays healthy, stays on the field, doesn't get in trouble. Um, and then we see what a whole year of Pat Mahomes and Rashee Rice can do. So I'm going to go with Rashee Rice at 13.
Yeah, yeah. And in our original rankings, we had him at 17. So obviously, in that time, that was a time when all the offseason concerns were, at its highest. So obviously, him being at 13 right now, that just shows, the confidence that he's going to head into the season without any offseason concerns right now. And yeah, it would be interesting to see how he does. Yeah, I don't have any issue with that. At number 14, I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson. Uh, I just think with Garrett Wilson, the situation with Geno Smith, it's fine. I think Geno Smith can support receivers. We've seen him do it already. Um, the situation last year in Las Vegas was about as bad as it can get for any quarterback. I don't know how many games you've seen them play, but there were many times where you're like, there is no quarterback that can succeed in this situation. No time to throw the ball. But Geno Smith is going to throw. He's going to throw the ball. I think it's an upgrade from Fields or whoever else was playing quarterback for the Jets last year. And Garrett Wilson obviously is their guy. They brought in some other receivers, and they brought in a tight end, obviously a high pick with Kenyon Sadiq. But I think that's only going to help him. It's only going to take pressure off him if these guys actually perform well. Garrett Wilson is the undisputed number one receiver, number one target on this football team, and I feel strong about him coming into this season. If he stays healthy, I think you could see him bounce back into that, 10 to 12 range in wide receivers.
I think that's fair. I had him at number 19, and maybe my concern is a little bit overblown. You think of the Jets, you don't think of anything positive. So, but Garrett Wilson, he's kind of moving out of that. He's young stage. He's middle aged for a wide receiver. But at least we know who he has throwing him the ball. And you're right, there could be worse quarterbacks than Geno. I think he'll be a value in drafts. Yeah, he'd be a player if you don't want to blow it. Draft Garrett Wilson. I don't think you'll end up regretting that pick. Will it be the best value pick at that spot? Maybe, maybe not. But I think it's a safe pick. And having him here at number 14, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I mean, maybe a little bit lower, but not in any meaningful way. So, all right, we're here at number 15, and we have roughly 10 players left to go, and we got less than 20 minutes. So we're going to do our best to stay maybe under 2 minutes apiece. I'm going to go with Nico Collins. Nico Collins here at number 15. Very simply, he's the wide receiver one on his team. He's gotten bit by the injury bug a bit. You got a poor offensive line in Houston, but CJ Stroud can throw him the ball. They got Jaden Higgins, they got Jalen Noel, David Montgomery. Got a good defense. If he can stay on the field, he's easily a wide receiver one. And he's another one of these middle-aged wide receivers. Maybe he's potentially a safer player to pick than Rashee Rice, a couple picks ahead of him. So at this point, I'm just going for. I kind of noted when I looked at some of the players I'm drafting around here that they started to feel safe. They weren't exciting, but they felt safe. So number 15, I'm going with Nico Collins.
Yep, I agree. Safe pick. We see what he can do in his career, and you're not gonna feel uncomfortable picking him in that range. Especially with the other receivers that you have to choose from. Number 16, I'm gonna go with a player who really had a tremendous season last year, and it was great to see Chris Olave. Number 16, he's in a good situation. I know they drafted Jordan Tyson, but I think Tyler Shuck and the steps he took into becoming a pretty solid NFL quarterback, I think that's going to continue, and it's only going to like the target share. Obviously, it may come down a bit when Jordan Tyson gets drafted so high, in the NFL draft. Obviously, he's going to be a key part of that offense. But in this range, again, a guy that you're not concerned about his production because you know what he can do when he's out there. So Chris Olave at number 16.
Yeah, the main thing that scares me about him, like it does with most players, where you could get him for a third round pick, a late second, it's a concussion history that doesn't just evaporate. And I think the outstanding season he had last year in a promising future with Kellen Moore and Tyler Shuh, um, makes people forget all about that. So while I can understand ranking him here at 16, which is exactly the same spot I had him ranked at, I would tend to think he might be a player that I would need to have him fall further. I'm just too afraid of the concussions. I don't want to blow it at this point in a startup, drafting a guy who, all it takes is a few unfortunate events, and they might be once again considering retirement. And not that ever Chris Olave was considering retirement. I know the fantasy community was trying to consider it for him, just like they did with Tua. Um, but I guess we both agree on number 16. So if you're willing to take the risk, there might be a nice payoff in having the clear wide receiver one on his team on a promising offense. Number 17, going with Lad McConkey. Um, Kind of ended up in a wide receiver 2 or 3 zone last year. I'm hoping for the bounce back. Mike McDaniels, you got Justin Herbert, you got Omarion Hampton, you got Riddick, Keenan Allen. Um, he's kind of set up in a great situation where it's easy to imagine him as the number one and to say, okay, no, rookie season, is that the ceiling? We don't know. Last year, we know that he can play better. There were no significant injuries, so we're expecting some sort of bounce back season. And then you have better play calling, and you got better players around you, and you don't have someone drawing targets away. Um, to me, Lad McConkey feels like he's another safe player. Like you should be betting on at least mid-range wide receiver 2 to low end wide receiver 1 finish for him this year. That to me seems to make sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Lad McConkey, another guy who obviously had a down year after having his tremendous rookie year, but in this range, you're gonna get a guy that's gonna get a lot of targets. Will he ever be a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he may settle in as a wide receiver 2, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's strong, especially when you're getting him right now. That's not a bad spot to be in. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. Keenan Allen, have you heard anything lately from him? I haven't heard
I,
anything right now as far as him.
I have not. I have not. I was looking on his player page just actually, I think, sometime this week. And I was curious. I'm like, he didn't have an awful season. I'd have to pull it up here, but it's not like he was, pulling trying to think of who that tight end was for. He played on the Jaguars, where he played for 20 years. And he was all over the league, and okay, they're not doing much, but no, Keenan Allen still showed like he still had some gas in the tank. And you would imagine maybe in the right situation he ends up there, or maybe in the wrong situation, just because he wants some targets. Maybe he goes to Atlanta, and he can be the wide receiver too in Atlanta. Um, or unfortunately for Lad, I guess maybe that's the landmine you have to worry about, that they bring him back again. And then all the hopes for Lad McConkey, you got to take a step back. You got to take a year off. But at this
Yeah,
moment, there's no Keenan Allen. They haven't brought him back. I'd like to think at some point maybe the organization just wants to move on. You can't keep some of your best players away and well, I'm just gonna use them minimally while I have them on their rookie deal. That's
for
not
sure.
maybe
Yeah,
a smart usage of players.
yeah. I gotta believe with the draft capital they picked him in. They want him to be their future. I mean, their main guy. Does he project as alpha receiver? Probably not. Not with his style, but it doesn't matter. There's been many players that play his style of football that have been strong receivers in fantasy year after year. All right, so number 18 in our rankings, I am going to go with Luther Burden. We had him at 15 originally. He's number 18, so still in the same range. Luther Burden, another guy that showed a lot of signs of tremendous potential. Especially towards the end of the year. So him, Rome Odunze, it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic this year. Um, Obviously, Colson Love and his emergence, kind of makes it a little murky as far as which receiver will be the main guy. We know Colson Love, and he is the main guy. He's the main target on that team. But as far as receiver go, there are not too many players as exciting as Luther Burden. It's so quick out there on the field, the route running, the explosiveness. So it'll be fun to see. I think Luther Burden at number 18. That's about the range he's going to be at in most drafts. So I feel very comfortable with him here.
Yeah, I am exactly. I guess that's interesting to hear that we had him at 15 before. That's exactly where I had him on my personal list. But yeah, we've seen the startups that the secret's out on Luther Burden. It's very much I guess we'll call it the Carnell Tate effect here. That if he has an equal season to Rashi Rice this year, who's going to have more value next year? Luther Burden or Rashi Rice? Um, you want to get in on Burden in the case that he does somehow transform to that Amon Ra role or some version of that um, in Chicago. So I don't know if he's not all drafts are the same. But at least the ones I've seen, the secret's out, and he's going. People are drafting him aggressively. So if you were to get him at wide receiver 18, that to me seems about fair. I guess it's just a matter of how many wide receivers are drafted in your draft and where they're drafted. So, all right. Well, here at number 19, I'm looking at my list, and I somehow, truth be told, I put down Rashi Rice twice. I had him listed at number 12 and number 18, so maybe that's his range. So I'm gonna go with the player that I have next in line here. This is the last year. This is the last year I'm holding out hope for this guy. Um, he's another player of the dynasty community we hold on to, and I think if it doesn't come together, that I don't know what that even means. It means 1,000 yards. It means staying on the field, and I mean it for the type of player he is. It's gonna mean double-digit touchdowns. Marvin Harrison Jr. If it doesn't happen this year, um, I'm done waiting for the breakout. Um, but I would think if I was doing a startup and these are the players that are left, I'm still excited about the upside. I'm not forgetting about the type of player he was in college. I'm not forgetting about the draft capital. I'm not worried about Michael Wilson. We know Jacoby Brissett can chuck the ball. And if things were just a little bit different, maybe we'd be thinking about Marvin Harrison Jr. in the way a lot of people are hopeful for Michael Wilson. If Marvin Harrison Jr. was just out there and maybe he was the only target, what would the end of his season look like? Um, but at number 19, I'm willing to take the shot on the upside here because you just in this range, there's always going to be some question about the player. So I'm going with Marvin Harrison Jr. This is the last year I'm buying into this, and maybe next year I'll just be saying, "Oh, I'll buy low." But at the moment, nobody's selling low. It doesn't seem like it. Um, but yeah, at a certain point, at what point do you think personally do you start giving up hope for a player? They're a number one wide receiver, number first round draft pick. At what point do you just give up hope? And you're like, I guess it isn't happening. They're Traylon Burks. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think this is it right here. Like you said, I think this would be the point. If this year comes and goes and it's another disappointing season, that would be the point. Obviously, there's always a price point for every player, but you're not going to see him go anywhere close to this range next year if he has this kind of year. He just won't. And who knows if Arizona decides to move on as well? Maybe they bring someone else in to be the number one guy. So this is a critical year for him. And like you mentioned, this could be it. This could be as far as his dynasty value as we know it. This could be the one right here. So, and it's exactly where we had him too in our original rankings, number 19. So, all right, number 20. Because I think Chicago's situation is so close at the receiver. I don't want them to be ranked too far apart. So at number 20, I'm going to go with Rome Odunze. Just so they're close in the rankings, as I believe they should be. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens this year in Chicago. It's one of the more exciting offenses to look forward to this year. Roman Dunze has shown a lot of potential. He's got everything you need in a receiver. So I'm excited to see what he can do this year. Roman Dunze, he can be an alpha receiver. He has that skill set. And let's see what happens here this year. But Roman Dunze at number 20.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as well. He's in the same boat as Marvin Harrison Jr. You look at the situation and you say, I can see it happening, but you can also see maybe it's somebody else. I guess that's more of an Odunze situation than maybe he's just not who we thought he was. He's not just going to be this, ultra alpha dominant wide receiver. But I still want to buy in on Chicago. So, which receiver do you take? I don't know. I guess it's all about the price, and who's giving you what deal. So I think that makes sense following that general rule we said earlier. When you don't know, then I guess the players should be ranked right around each other, just within a handful of spots. Um, so I'm okay with Roma Dunze at number 20. I had him at 23, not too far away. At number 21, this will be the actual player I had ranked at 21. I'm going with Jordan Tyson, just going with the upside here. Um, we got Chris Olave just a handful of spots behind him. He's got the injury concerns. Well, I guess Jordan Tyson also has the injury concerns. Did you see the news story? It's like they've only been in some sort of like team activities practice here. He just got injured in the last 2 days.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, it was a minor injury. But yeah, the news article I read about him, they were not kind. They were explaining why that was not a good sign. Um, but he's I guess everybody's definition of what an injury is. Only time will tell. I don't care how much you get injured in practice or in the off season or in May. I'm gonna care when it's September. When we're expecting you to play. There's a lot of hype for him. He's in a good situation. Most experts, us included, we all believe Tyler Shutt should easily be able to, in a Kellen Moore offense, support a couple wide receivers. So maybe that's an arrow down for Jawan Johnson. That the target will go to somebody with more upside like Jordan Tyson if he stays on the field. So at 21, I'm looking at players here, and I was happy to go with the youth and the high draft capital and the decent situation.
100%. Yep, that's where I had him too. Jordan Tyson, and I'm definitely excited to see. He's one of them receivers that have game breaking ability. So it's going to be fun to see how he plays in the dome there in New Orleans. At number 22, I have Makai Lemon, fellow rookie. Yeah, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun to see what happens in Philadelphia. Obviously, AJ Brown. We're here May 9th right now. Very strong opportunity for Makai Lemon to take advantage of a potential trade that's going to be happening. By all accounts, it seems it's it's not locked in, but it's pretty much it's a formality at this point. They're just waiting for post June 1st. So when Makai Lemon gets slotted in there as a number 2 receiver, he's got the skill set that Jalen Hurts likes. A guy that could go over the middle, make a bunch of plays, a guy who has tremendous route running. Him and Devontae Smith are similar with their route running, and Makai Lemon, I think, has a chance to be a really, really good football player in this league. And I think he's in a good spot. He's going to immediately be a guy who is in the offense I mentioned a couple weeks ago. The Eagles have concentrated types of targets. They focus in on just specific players. It's not such a wide range of targets that they throw around. It's specific targets, and it's usually every week one or two guys. Goddard would be thrown in there as well. That's the way they run their offense. Obviously, it's a new offensive coordinator. We'll see how that plays out as well. But I think Makai Lemon has a tremendous opportunity to put some decent production in year one. And it's, again, similar to Carnell Tate, such a young receiver. If they play well in year one, the value increases, and that's the guy you want on your roster.
Absolutely, I like that. I like that a lot. It reminds me sort of when I think of the thought process to Emeka Egbuka, but not 100% last year. That people said, "Oh, there's Mike Evans, there's Chris Godwin. Or, what do they need another wide receiver for?" So, I mean, I guess if you're living under a rock, you'd say, "Oh, well, they got Devontae Smith. They got they got they got AJ Brown, and they got Saquon Barkley. Well, what are they going to do with this other wide receiver?" But analytics, he's off the charts. He's in a lot of places. He was the number one analytics based wide receiver. We know he's going to go in, and you're right. It's about the game plan. He got drafted to a good team, winning organization, good quarterback, um, and taking him for some of the similar reasons you would take Jordan Tyson, the pick before. You got a nice, the book isn't written yet. The story hasn't been written at all. So that's a good player to hold on to. And usually with rookies, it's all positive in the off season. So that's a good player to have. And you're right. If the season goes well, the price won't be this cheap next year. So at number 23, I'm going to pick a player I wouldn't mind having a couple nice wide receiver one seasons from. His teammate, Devontae Smith. He's going to be 28 this year. So once again, at this level of player, this ranking of player, you're going to start to make trade-offs. I'm going to go with the guy that, he's when he gets heavily targeted in a game, he can blow up. And he's had nearly every year he's been in the league, he's been right around 1,000 yards. He's had 3 seasons above 1,000 yards. He had, his 2022 season, he had almost 1,200 yards. But he has always been splitting time with someone else. So this year, hopefully being the alpha in town, um, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Certainly, if we're looking at it in a 2-year window, um, picking him here up at what do we say, number 23. I think that's fair. Who else are you going to take? I mean, if I had him as my wide receiver 2 or as a wide receiver 2, I mean, you can probably get him a lot later in drafts. But he has weekly wide receiver 1 upside.
Yeah, yeah, very good. I think Devontae Smith, has a chance to show what he can do as the number one receiver in Philadelphia. He had an opportunity to do that early in his career, but now, now is his chance to continue to show that. So Devontae Smith, he's a guy we've seen him play throughout his career. He can make a ton of plays, and he plays bigger than what his size actually is. He can make big time plays downfield. He's a great player, man. Fun player to watch. So yeah, him at 23, no issue with that at all. Number 24, I'm going to go with your favorite player, the best floor in all of Dynasty Fantasy
Oh,
Football.
good.
It's going to be one of the best players, and I know you're just a huge fan of this guy. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers at number 24. That's the guy. That's your guy, man. Number
So you don't
20.
want to blow it. You
Yep,
pick Zay Flowers. You don't have to worry about it.
Zay Flowers at 24. I mean, and all jokes aside, he does have a very solid floor. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He had 86 catch season last year on 118 targets. He finished as a wide receiver 7 in PPR. That was his best season of his career. Let's see what happens this year. If he gets his target, uptick in targets a little bit, I think he's going to still finish in it as a potential wide receiver 1. Yeah, you may not be super excited to have him, but I think he's a guy that if he's in your lineup, you're going to get steady production. I just think that's just what he can do. He's not a huge touchdown guy, so he's going to have to live on those targets and receptions for him to return any value throughout the season. But if he can get a couple more touchdowns this year, I can still see him finishing as a wide receiver 1 this year, especially if Lamar Jackson bounces back strong, which I'm fully confident he will be able to do.
I don't know. I mean, maybe the wide receiver 1 on his team. I don't know if he's going to be an overall wide receiver 1 or in the 1 to 12 category as a wide receiver 1. But just like Devontae Smith, I think it's fair to say, okay, at this range of players we're picking, we just want somebody who's going to be safe. We don't want to end up with some player that doesn't return any value, and we're chasing that, and you're chasing that throughout the rest of the year because you blew a third, fourth, fifth round pick on somebody. No, I don't think you'll regret picking Zay Flowers in this range. So I'm cool with that at 24. Number 25, our honorable mention, and we start to break into the wide receiver 3s. I'm living in the past with this one. BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. We don't know what the real story is. I'm not afraid of Parker Washington. They got too much competition there. Brenton Strange, he's not a joke. And that tight end I was referencing as you were sharing some insight. I looked it up. The one that played for 20 years in Jacksonville, and he was all around the league. Mercedes Lewis. That's who I
Okay,
was
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
So Brenton Strange, maybe he's is he as good as Mercedes Lewis? I don't know, but he's a player I was happy to pick up some shares of last year before I felt like he sort of broke out. And Parker Washington, but you still got Jacoby Myers. You got Travis Hunter, and they're still going to run the ball. So the question is, well, where does that leave BTJ? And is he the 1,300-yard guy almost, or is he the 700-yard guy? Um, I don't know. It's tough to know, but I think fortune favors the bold. And if you take a swing on him, whenever, if you're the owner that has BTJ, you might be left holding the bag. He might get traded somewhere else. He may be the guy that you're always hoping returns to form, or he shines. He goes somewhere else, and you see that rookie year. I think it's worth taking a risk here. Um, because you can pick a lot of safe players, you can pick old players, but you can't pick a lot of 23-year-olds that had a wide receiver one as a rookie, 1,300 yards, almost 10 touchdowns. Um, so that's why I'm picking at 25, BTJ.
Yeah, I feel good about that. That's who I would have picked too at number 25. I think BTJ, very puzzling season last year. But yeah, there's a lot of targets there, obviously. So he's got to overcome that. But I think, like you said, 23 years old. If he could bounce back to form, you got an outstanding value on your team, because where you have to draft him right now is not in a spot that you're that uncomfortable about, because the value he is going to return if he has a solid season. We're talking about a top maybe top 3 to 4 round startup pick next year if he bounces back. So it'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we made it. We made it. Maybe a little bit over an hour, but we did our best. And once again, thank you everyone for listening. Check out our website, lab52dynastyfootball.com, for some of our individual rankings and our site rankings. Leave us a message. Feel free to rank the show wherever you listen to it. That's always helpful. I see somebody left a ranking that's out there. And next week, for our weekly show, once again, Lab 52 Dynasty Football Podcast is a weekly podcast. So next week, what'd you say we're going to do? We were talking that it's going to be a redraft. We're going to shift gears into redraft mode, and we're going to do a redraft mock, 15 rounds with a special guest. And this is
Yeah,
a special
yeah,
guest that you're aware of. I'll let you close it out from here and tell our listeners a little bit more about what to expect next week. But I've had a lot of fun, and I'll see you next week.
absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, we are a dynasty podcast, but there are a couple times throughout the year that we like to throw in a mock draft or redraft. Because I think, especially post NFL draft, it's always cool to see where players are going, these types of mock drafts. And then we'll try to do another one in August. Obviously, dynasty football drafts compared to a redraft, it's going to be different, of course, but it's always cool to see where we rank players in dynasty, and then go switch over to redraft and do a mock draft there. It'll be fun. We'll expecting to have a special guest next week. It'll be fun. We're looking forward to it, and as always, we're so thankful to everyone who listens and all the feedback we receive. Thank you again for listening, and have a great week.